Good morning. This is a blessing for us to be here this morning. We do thank God for all of His wonderful blessings He has given to us from the early of our existence, even up to now. For this is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it, because He has made this day for you and for me, that we may give glory to His name, and He should receive all glory, honor, and praise. Good morning again. We just thank God for you all for joining us with this review of the church school lesson or Sunday school lesson. We just thank God for just being here today. We're continuing our discussion on the new set that we got, the new theme, living life connected to Christ. Last week we saw how being connected to Christ, we must be a humble, give humble servant, live an humble servant. But today we're going to look at being connected to Christ, a life of loyalty. A life of loyalty. That means that you are connected to an individual, that you are loyal to them. You will go to bat for them. You will follow their lead. And it's still important for us to do that. And the point this morning is that connection to Christ calls for consistent loyalty. If you are connected to Christ, you must remain loyal to Him. You must follow His guidelines. You must do what He has called on you to do. It's a continuation of our study in John 13. Again, last week we saw how Jesus demonstrated for us how we are to serve one another. We are to serve one another. That's what we are called to do as followers of Christ. We are called to serve. Well, today we are a life of loyalty, and it's coming to us from John 13, verses 21 to 27 and 31 to 35. One more time, the point is connection to Christ calls for constant loyalty. That means that you can't be this way today and then another way tomorrow. You must be consistent. You must be consistent. You cannot be wishy-washy. You must be consistent. Our first outline from John 13, verses 21 to 27, and it reads, when Jesus had said this, he was troubled in his spirit and testified, truly I tell you, one of you will betray me. The disciples started looking at one another, uncertain which one he was speaking about. One of his disciples, the one Jesus loved, was reclining close beside Jesus. Simon motioned to him to find out who it was he was talking about. So he leaned back against Jesus and asked him, Lord, who is it? Jesus replied, he is the one I give the piece of bread, and to after I have dipped it. When he had dipped the bread, he gave it to Judas, Simon Iscariot's son. After Judas ate the piece of bread, Satan entered him. So Jesus told him, what you are doing, do quickly. So uh, uh, the first outline tells us to Look for betrayal in your own life. Look on the inside. Look and see if you're going to betray or have you betrayed someone in your life. When we look at it, at this time, Jesus was troubled because he knew his time was over from the last study. His time was almost up. He also knew that his time was come that he would have to be betrayed. And because he was going to be betrayed, it didn't sit well with him. He was troubled. His spirit was troubled. And as he said that, the disciples began to look at one another to say who it is, who's going to betray, who's going to do this, and who's going to do that. And Simon Peter asked John, this is the one who Jesus loved, to ask him who it is going to betray me. And he gave them the answer. The answer is found in verse 26. And he said, Jesus replied, he's the one I give the piece of bread to after I have dipped it. He told them that he gave, but they wasn't paying attention like we don't pay attention. He gave them the answer to the question that they asked. He, the one who he dipped the bread in, and when he did that, he gave it to Judas, Simon Iscariot's son. And after that, after Judas ate the bread, Satan entered into him. So God gives us the answer that we look for. We just must pay more attention to what he said. He gave them the answer, and he gives us the answer too when we are looking for an answer to what it is that we need. Some lasting truths about this lesson. Because of his identification with us as human beings, Jesus felt various human emotions and therefore understands our emotion and can help us. Even those who are close to Jesus can fall into Satan's trap. Our actions demonstrate whether we betray Jesus or not. We need constantly to examine our lives and look for signs of betraying Jesus. Even at the very last moment of temptation, Jesus offers us a way out. So that's important. Look for betrayal in yourself. Don't be looking at the next person. Look within yourself. The second outline from John 13:31 to 33, it says, when he had left, Jesus said, now the Son of Man is glorified, and God is glorified in him. If God is glorified in him, God will also glorify him in himself and will glorify him at once. Little children, I am with you a little while longer. You will look for me. And just as I told the Jews, so now I tell you, where I am going, you cannot come. Live for God's glory, even as Jesus did. We are responsible for doing that. So Jesus, as he left, when Judas left, he said that, look, the Son of Man is glorified because Judas is going to do what he's supposed to do. And because Jesus is glorified, God is glorified too. If God is glorified in him, God will also glorify him in himself and will glorify him at once. So when Jesus fulfills his duty, his responsibility, what he set out to do, then he was glorified. And because of he was glorified, because he was sent here on a mission for a purpose. And he told him, now I'm not going to be here a little bit longer. I'm not going to be here any longer with you. And just as he told you, and now tell you, where I'm going, you can't go. So he's leaving. He's getting ready to go. Therefore, we must bring glory to him as we serve one another. This still goes back to serving. We are responsible for serving one another. And the third, okay, some lasting truths. If we are followers of Jesus, God is glorified by how we live our lives. Part of Jesus' mission and our mission is to bring glory to God in all things. Although Jesus is not physically present with us, he left us instructions about how to live. The third outline, John 13:34-35. I give you a new command. Love one another just as I have loved you. You are also to love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. Love for others puts your loyalty to God on display. So it's important that we love one another. And when we love one another with the real love of God, it shows people who we really are. It doesn't minimize it. It maximizes the point that because we love one another, then this love that we have for others on display. So the commandment is that we're to love one another. And Jesus said, just as I love you, we ought to love one another. And the way that we love everybody, that people are going to know this because the love that we have for one another, the love that we have for one another, this love is on display. And it's very, very important for us to keep this in mind. Look, here are some lasting truths. Jesus commands his disciples to love one another. Because Jesus commanded his disciples to love one another, he also commands us to love one another. Jesus' commands are a requirement, not merely a request. The same thing with us. It's a requirement. This is what we are supposed to do, and it's not a request. And thirdly, when we follow Jesus' command, the way God changes our lives gives testimony to a world that desperately needs to see his power. It is so important for us. So the life of loyalty, betrayal is a part of life, so we got to be careful not to betray Christ. And we do it all the time. We often do it. We just have to make sure we do. Live for God's glory, even as Jesus did. That's part of our responsibility. We are here to live to bring glory to God, to give him glory. And as we are bringing glory to God, we are also here to love one another so that men can see that we love one another by the way that we love each other. No matter what happens, we are responsible to love each other as God has loved us. May God richly bless you, my beloved.